So in one of my latest videos, you saw the Destiny 2 devs saying that the PS4 Pro couldn't handle 60 frames per second, and it's because the CPU is the bottleneck, and it's just not a powerful enough machine. They said that it doesn't have the horsepower. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out, because this video is sort of related to that, because a common theme that I was seeing in the comment section was people were saying that, well, the Scorpio isn't going to be able to do 60 frames per second either, because it's going to have the same weak CPU in it that the PS4 Pro does. And while that's not entirely true, even Eurogamer, which you can see in their graph, they don't even call it a Jaguar chip at this point. They say that it's a highly customized chip. It has extra features baked into it, unlike the PS4 Pro that they list as just a Jaguar chip. But let's just pretend for a moment that this is true, that Scorpio has the same exact CPU in it that the PS4 Pro has. It doesn't, but let's pretend that it does. The thing is, you don't need a high-end CPU to hit 60 frames per second if you know how to do it. I was going back through some older articles and I found the Eurogamer post where they had found the white paper on Scorpio. You might remember this because this was pretty big in the news and I certainly covered it on this channel. But basically, a white paper is an internal document for developers. And one area that didn't get too much attention was this little paragraph. We acknowledge that developers may not wish to spend all the additional GPU resources of Project Scorpio on resolution, and this is not mandated. To make the best games possible, devs may inevitably spend GPU resources on other quality improvements, such as high-fidelity shadows, reflections, texture filtering, and lower draw distance. Another option developers might consider is frame rate upscaling, running graphics at 60 Hz, but the CPU at 30 Hz, and interpolating animation. So here is a demo that was shown off a few years ago running on Xbox, showing off this technique. And it's frame rate upscaling, sort of like how the PS4 Pro fakes 4K by upscaling most of their games. Devs can also fake frame rates and sort of add a frame in between frames to make the game 60 frames per second. And it's pretty much indistinguishable from true 60 frames per second unless you're slowing the video way down. And not only does it look like 60 frames per second, but it also plays like 60 frames per second, which means you would have reduced latency and input lag by over 16 milliseconds, they say. So you're getting all of the benefits of 60 frames per second, plus it actually uses fewer resources than motion blur, because devs a lot of times on 30 frames per second games, they'll add a lot of motion blur in order to make the game look less janky. So at a higher frame rate, you wouldn't need motion blur. So you could swap out motion blur and get 60 frames per second, and the game's going to look and feel a whole lot better, and you'll actually be saving resources. So this is a win-win. So basically all Scorpio would have to do is deliver a solid 30 frames per second. And if devs wanted to, they could take Microsoft's advice that they put in the white paper and use interpolating animations and deliver 4K 60 frames per second. Now, is this going to happen? Who knows? But it is possible. This video is proof of it. And Microsoft is suggesting that devs consider it. So if you want to read more about this technique, links down in the description box. That does it for me, the Red Dragon. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.